The Fugitive Doctor leads an exciting new series of adventures spanning across audio dramas, novels, comics, and more. Okay, so this is the new transmedia experience for Doctor Who after Time Lord Victorious and after Doomsday. BBC Studios, in collaboration with BBC Audio, Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who Magazine, East Side Games, Penguin Random House, and Titan Comics, are excited to announce the upcoming launch of Circuit Breaker, a groundbreaking mixed media Doctor Who story set to debut in 2026. Spanning audio dramas, comics, mobile games, novels, and digital storytelling, Circuit Breaker is a bold new chapter in the Whoniverse, offering an ambitious, interconnected narrative that will unfold across multiple formats, inviting fans to experience the mystery from every angle. The overarching narrative is crafted by Esme Jameke Pearson, best-selling author and rising star in speculative fiction, features Jo Martin's Fugitive Doctor. Esme was also the writer of the Church on Ruby Road novel adaptation. Honestly, this sort of kind of gives me hope generally for Doctor Who expanded media, because the fact that they have announced this and that they're doing another transmedia event shows that regardless of the public perception of Doomsday, thanks to that really poor trailer that basically announced the project to the world, these projects are still clearly profitable enough, or at least they get the return on investment in other ways. I don't know what they could be, but somehow this is working for BBC Studios. Time Lord Victorious and Doomsday clearly work for them, so that they're doing more. I think with this as well, it could also be a happy medium between Time Lord Victorious and Doomsday, because Doomsday did feature numerous incarnations of the Doctor, but Doom herself, played by Suze Kempner, really well by Suze Kempner in the Big Finish audios. I think having a original new character for the transmedia story was a bit of a step back and might have been a bit of a deal breaker for some people, but having a Doctor incarnation as the face of this new transmedia story, that's a really good idea, and having the Fugitive Doctor be the face of it is also another great one. But while we are in this sort of weird wilderness period for Doctor Who, I really do hope that BBC and Bad Wolf uses this time smartly to find the next generation of Doctor Who writers, because we do have expanded universe novels and comics. We've got Jodie Hauser from the 13th and Fugitive Doctor comics. We've got brilliant writers like Georgia Cook from the BBC Books range and also Big Finish audios. But also we've got some exciting new stuff happening with the 15th Doctor. I mentioned this earlier on the stream, but the idea of using now comics between the 15th Doctor and Belinda to sort of flesh out that dynamic and give us more of these characters who we really wanted more out of, especially kind of like the 6th Doctor. We know definitively on screen where the 6th Doctor story ends. It ends with him banging his head on the TARDIS console and regenerating into Sylvester McCoy in a Colin Baker wig. But with the 15th Doctor, now that we have the reality war ending into Billie Piper, if that is indeed the end of the 15th Doctor, we now have effectively a whole universe to play with to sort of re-establish this character and get to know him more and flesh out what the TV series unfortunately did not do. We've got these comic books which are going to be coming out through Titan Comics, a 15th Doctor like prison break story with an Adipose and a Slitheen and these other aliens. You also have these 15th Doctor books as well, Fear Death by Water by Emily Cook and Spectral Scream by Hannah Ferguson. You have these brilliant new writers who are carving a foothold for themselves in the Doctor Who expanded universe, and I think that this is the pool of talents that you draw from when you're looking at the future of the show on TV. Obviously with Circuit Breaker, we don't know who is going to be writing these stories yet. We just know that Jo Martin is going to be at the heart of it, and also with the overarching narrative crafted by Esme Jameke Pearson. She's going to be the James Goss equivalent, I presume, of Circuit Breaker like he was for Doomsday and Time Lord Victorious. But you're still going to have many other writers who are going to be writing other stories for Circuit Breaker along the way. And I think with Rusty Davis hopefully coming to an end of his tenure for Doctor Who again, we're going to be looking at brand new writers and brand new creatives. Because honestly, it's their turn now. If you want this show, this franchise to have longevity, if you want it to continue into the future, you've got to bring in the new guard. And I think that the show has been so hesitant to bring in a new guard for several years now. I think you really should have been doing it around the time of the Chris Chibnall era, And understandably, Flux was written predominantly by Chris Chibnall because of what happened with the pandemic. I know that wasn't originally the plan going into it. We have the interviews with Chris Chibnall and Vinay Patel, who co-wrote Fugitive of the Jadoo and wrote Demons of the Punjab. Apparently for Series 13, which would later become Flux, they were having meetings and story script meetings in early 2020, and during those meetings, they'd go to the toilet and they'd see the 2 meters separating distance, wash your hands signs for COVID. The rumblings were there that the series was not going to pan out the way that they wanted it to. We're 5 years past that, and we really should be bringing in a new guard for it. Thank you to Orange Blaster 500 for the super chat. Hey, just got here talking to a friend and they said it's kind of sad that Ncuti Gatwa has to be the Disney Doctor. Do you think these books will fix that? The books likely won't fix that general perception. The unique thing about Big Finish being able to redefine the legacy of the Sixth Doctor was that Colin Baker was on board for the journey. The reason why fans give them a pedigree that other expanded media material doesn't have necessarily is because the original actors are involved. Tom Baker is still playing the Fourth Doctor for Big Finish audios. Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker, Peter Davison, Paul McGann, they're still playing the Doctor for Big Finish audios, whereas you could release a 8th or ninth Doctor novel now, but unless, Christopher Eccleston or Paul McGann are narrating the audiobook adaptation. I'm not trying to say that Big Finish should be put on a pedestal, or that Big Finish is a more legitimate form of Doctor Who. But when you have the original actor involved, it definitely is the key selling point, and it definitely, in the eyes of many fans, adds to the credibility of those stories as being more canon, more genuine. Maybe those aren't the correct words. Maybe I could be gish galloping here, but I hope you folks take my point. I think it's why Big Finish's 13th Doctor stories, Vampire Weekend, The Return of the Doctor, etc., those could be seen by fans as more legitimate than The Good Doctor, the BBC book story written by Juno Dawson, or could be more legitimate than the Jodie Hauser 13th Doctor comics, because Jodie Whittaker is not directly involved. Even though Jodie Whittaker is not writing those stories, she's still portraying the character there. Does that make... Please let me know if I'm not making any sense, but I think that's why Big Finish is put on a pedestal that way. And I think that the books for the 15th Doctor and the comic, unless they specifically come out of the gate and say, we weren't happy with Ncuti's fate in the TV series, we are going to try and expand on the character, or give them more to work with, or dive deeper into these story arcs and these characterizations, it's not going to dispel that idea. It's also depending on what they do next for the 15th Doctor. When it comes to Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor, if there's no Disney renewal and if they go to a different streaming service, honestly, it depends on what they do with the canon. That we are dealing with a scenario now where the BBC and Doctor Who more broadly could just say Power of the Doctor onwards is not canon. I'm not saying that's what I'd want to happen. I'm not saying that's even the best thing to do, but what we've got from the Star Beast up until the Reality War and now this upcoming Christmas special could be seen as its own offshoot thing. I mean, think about it. From the broadcast of the Power of the Doctor up until the broadcast of The Giggle, just over a year between that span, but there's technically 3 numbered Doctors. We're going through Doctor incarnations at lightning speed here. It makes the show itself look a bit ridiculous from the outside. I'm not saying that we should make the past 3 years not canon. I see this sentiment from fans all the time. The next era of Doctor Who should just pick up from the ending of Twice Upon a Time, where Peter Capaldi is on the TARDIS floor, and then, it was all a bad dream, and then, 13th Doctor, 14th Doctor, that's not canon. That seems like such a short-sighted way to view Doctor Who, and it also just is a complete lack of pattern recognition, because if we took that approach to the classic series, where the peak of Doctor Who, let's say the Caves of Androzani, where the 5th Doctor regenerates on the TARDIS floor, and the 6th and the 7th Doctor, that wasn't perceived by the general population as worthwhile Doctor Who, and that should be not canon, then we're losing Colin Baker's 6th Doctor and Sylvester McCoy's 6th Doctor and Paul McGann's 8th Doctor. We're losing these beloved actors, these beloved incarnations in these beloved stories because of the short-sighted idea of this general period of the show that the general audience did not really engage with is not that shouldn't be canon anymore. We should throw that out. And the long-term ramifications of that is no Colin Baker, no Sylvester McCoy, no Paul McGann. And if you ask a fan now, should those 3 Doctors not be canon anymore, they'd say, no, that's stupid, that's ridiculous. But it's the same thought process as everything after Peter Capaldi's Doctor's not canon. Same thought process, it's just a different century. But it obviously depends on what they do next with this Christmas special. They could turn the clock back and say we have a brand new 14th Doctor. The timeline genuinely could split. After the events of Power of the Doctor, we have a new 14th Doctor, and then we have a new 15th Doctor. It would be a very bad look, it genuinely would. But it is an option. It is technically an option, especially with, as Dan Aesthetic points out in the chat, that this new era of Doctor Who with Ncuti Gatwa, with Ruby Sunday, with Belinda Chandra, that could be in rights limbo because it's Disney Plus. And obviously, for the BBC, they might just meld those 2 eras of Doctor Who, 2005 to 2022, and then 2023-25. They'll probably just meld those into one thing. However, when it comes to international distribution and international viewers, if you don't have a Disney Plus subscription, will those 2 seasons and change of Doctor Who just be locked out? We don't know. It's tough to gauge, and I don't envy the people in charge of the branding and of the show itself to make these decisions. You know, if it was up to me, it's all canon. You just don't refer to it every 30 seconds. You don't end 4 of the past 5 episodes of the series with a montage of previous Doctors. You know, you don't have to lean into it like that. The first time that Paul McGann was confirmed as the Doctor after the TV movie was nearly 3 seasons into the revival. It was in Human Nature and the Family of Blood when the 8th Doctor turns up in John Smith's diary. You know, you don't have to go out of the gate in 2005 and say Paul McGann is the 8th Doctor, and then we're building from that. This is the Doctor. Colloquially, they're the 16th Doctor, but you don't have to use the past of the show as a crutch. Seems easier to split after the 14th Doctor because they literally bi-generated, but then you just have these 3 random specials. I don't know. Classic Who has that issue in Australia. As far as I know, it does not have any legal way outside of physical media to watch the episodes. Yeah, but we'll see if that Australia distribution deal, was it ABC? We'll see if that pans out in future after this Disney Plus deal.